Speaking of things that bother me, here's something that I saw on the internet that really started to get on my tits. I got really upset about this. Let's see if
But Kamala's fake, phony behavior doesn't stop there. While delivering the same speech in
you don't know who this guy is. His name is Sean Hannity. He says things like, "You've been Hannitized," and if you listen to what he says, he's just a very offensive individual. He'll use Kamala Harris's first name in order to diminish her. That's a very common tactic among chauvinists, people who think, or just women haters, misogynists. If you call someone who's running for president by their first name instead of their last name, it makes them seem less serious. They did it with Hillary. Even I I never heard her being called Clinton. They always called her Hillary. Kamala Harris, her last name is Harris. If you say Trump and Mr. Vice President, no, it's Harris. That's her name, Harris. You wouldn't call her by her first name. But listen, he never will say her last name because he's a douchebag.
two separate locations, one in Detroit, one in Pittsburgh. Kamala's dialect changes dramatically. The words were the same. The accents were very different. You decide.
This is one of my favorite things. So this guy is literally a dude who puts on a voice for TV. Do you think that he talks like this when he's talking with his friends? No, he doesn't talk like that. He doesn't. That's not how he speaks in real life. You know what I mean? He's just a dude with a little. He's got Rupert Murdoch's hand up his butt and flapping his mouth, and he's making noises. Now he's accusing other people of code switching. Now, maybe you don't know what code switching is, but sometimes you use different ways of speaking with different people. And I think, like, if you're Scottish, you probably understand. A Scottish person, when they're talking with other Scots, you can barely understand them. But when they talk with, I don't know, like someone from England, they kind of put a little, they change their accent a little bit so that the English person can understand. That's something that we all do. That's one example, but all of us do it to some extent. You talk differently than you with your mom than you do with your bros at the gym or something like that, right? It's pretty common code switching. Also, you might have you have different levels on the amp, right? My amp goes to 11, of course, but sometimes I'm at a 9, sometimes I'm at an 8, sometimes I'm all the way down to a 1 because it's very serious and I have to whisper to you. But sometimes it's up to 11 and I'm really going strong, right? Energy levels also play a part. But what do you think? I'm going to ask you the same thing Hannitizer thinks. Let's see what you think.
You may not be a union member. You better thank a union member for the 5-day work week. You better thank a union member for sick leave. You better thank a union member for paid leave. You better thank a union member for vacation time. You may not be a union member, but you better thank unions for that 5-day work week. Thank unions for sick leave. Thank unions for paid family leave. Thank unions for your vacation time. Let's just get through the next 64 days.
I kind of like that.
64 days until the most election of our lives.
The most election of our lives. So she did misspeak a little bit there. But there's two different audiences in two different towns on two different days, right? You're going to be two different people. Like, I'm not the same guy every day. If you've been watching this show for a while, you'll notice, like, Jackie sent me a thing saying, "Oh, do you have a cold?" And it's like, no, I'm a little over. The altitude has made me a little under the weather, but I don't have a cold. It's simply I'm in Denver, and altitude sickness gets me a little bit. Not too much. I'm not really nasty about it, but she noticed because she watches me a lot. Other people might see that from day to day, I'm a different person. I'm not always the same guy. I got different vibes. You know what I'm saying? And so if I'm in I don't know, Denver one day and I'm in Arkansas the next, my activism is different. When I was talking to people who are hunters and I'm talking with them about veganism, my voice is a little bit different. I talk about different things with people who are literally killing animals just yesterday with their bare hands and eating their flesh raw and stuff. Like, I talk with those weirdos way differently than I do with I don't know, people in a big city who are curious about what vegan is and what is this? What's veganism? That's what happens in farms. I had no idea. Oh my gosh! Like, two different vibes. I got way different approaches. So it would stand to reason that Kamala Harris, that's her last name. See, it says Kamala versus. I hate this guy so much. Sean Hannity's such a dirtbag. I don't even want to get into all the horrible things about this guy, but I think this is kind of a low blow BS thing. He doesn't address any of the things that she said, right? Like the fact that Labor Day is important because our union members won us a 5-day work week, actually won us the right to take off 2 days a week, gave us the weekend. This guy speaks out against unions all the time. He hates them. He hates the worker. So of course he's going to be really going to take the piss out of Miss Harris but he won't be able to say anything about the substance of what she's saying, only about the way she said it in a prepared speech that she gave in two different cities. That's normal. You give the same speech in two different cities. That's quite normal. If you've ever been I used to manage a comedy club, and let me tell you, when we would have people there, comics there, and they're going to do 5 shows, it's the same show every night. Hate to bust your bubble. It's the same show. They've rehearsed and they do the same show every night for 5 nights. And if you're working there, it kind of makes you crazy to listen to people laugh at the same, because you've heard the joke so many times, you're just like not laughing at all. You've heard the jokes a million times. It's a bizarre thing, but that's how it works.
You can also thank Kamala and Joe for $4.5 billion in losses that Ford suffered as they were forced to produce cars that their customers didn't want, electric vehicles that they've had to since stop because high-paying career jobs were in jeopardy, union jobs, great jobs, career jobs. And keep in mind, Harris grew up in a wealthy area of Montreal in Canada. Was this her way of trying to talk like a blue-collar auto worker, or what she might imagine?
Actually, Vice President Harris grew up in a lot of different places. One of those places being Wisconsin. Her accent probably is probably a lot like mine in a way, because I moved around a lot. I've lived in a lot of different places. I speak a lot of different languages. And so that would be kind of, I could probably switch off a little bit better than most. I like to fake accents every once in a while. And I'll tell you what else, when I'm around a few people who are all speaking the same accent, like when I lived in England, I started having an English accent. It wasn't on purpose, but when I came back to America finally, everyone thought I was Irish because they couldn't really place where I was from. They were like, what kind of, do you have an accent? What is that? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just trying to speak like I always do, but I know I talk a little funny. And so everyone thought I talked funny for like the first year I was back in the States. That's part of living around the world, man. She did not grow up in Montreal. She kind of grew up all over the place, but whatever. Sean Hannity is a douchebag, and I think a little code switching, having a president who could, I don't know, have a little bit of situational awareness and adjust her speech and the speech that's written for her, adjust the way she's delivering that speech depending on where she is. I think that's quite normal. I think that's I like normal when it comes to these guys. I endorse nobody, of course, and all of the views expressed here are mine alone, and don't expect don't reflect those of any group or organization. But I think normal. I like normal right now. I would love to have a vegan president, and so I won't endorse Kamala Harris. But normal, yeah, I would. I think that'd be pretty cool. I like normal right now.